Okay guys, so in today's lesson we're going to be looking at how to convert equations from standard form to slope-intercept form. So standard form to slope-intercept form, what does that even look like? So it's standard form, an equation in standard form basically has the equation equal to a constant. And in slope-intercept form, the equation is set equal to the y. So what does that look like? So something like this, for example. So standard form is when you have the equation equal to a constant like ax plus by equals c. Notice that the c doesn't have an x or a y attached to it, so it's just a random number or a constant. When you have slope-intercept form, that's something we all know and love, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Why do we have to convert stuff from from standard form to slope-intercept form? Well, we want to be able to graph it, right? So if you want to graph a line, typically we're used to this method, and if it looks like this, well, how the heck are we supposed to graph it? So the whole point of this lesson is converting from this form to this form, so we're able to graph lines. So let's do a few examples from standard form to slope-intercept form. So the whole idea here is getting the y by itself. So we want to get the y by itself because we want it to be in slope-intercept form. So key here is get the y by itself on one side of the variable, one side of the equation, sorry. So in example 1, example 2, and example 3, the thing that I like to do is highlight the variable of interest that I'm trying to get alone. Because we have more than one variable and it can get really confusing about what the heck we're even doing here. So in the beginning of the problem, just so I don't get confused, if you don't have a highlighter, you can always box it. That's cool too. So the whole point of this is to get that guy by itself. Okay, so let's focus on the first example first, so ignore the next two. So first thing we need to do, like we always do, to get any variable by itself, we have to draw the wall, line down the equal sign. We have to look, okay, so we got to move the negative 15, we got to move the 5x to the other side. Now in all these examples, all we're doing is rearranging the equations so that the y is by itself. You're not really solving this, we're rearranging it to look differently. So don't get that twisted, because some people get confused and they're like, well, what's my answer? Well, you're not going to get an answer like 5 or 7, you're going to get an equation, which is something that looks from something like this to something like this. So don't freak out if you don't get an answer, like an actual value. Okay, so which one is furthest, the negative 15 or the 5x? In this case, the 5x is furthest away, so we're going to start with that guy. How do we cancel positive 5x? Well, we do the inverse operation, which is negative 5x on this side, so it can cancel. Boom, it's gone. We got to do the same thing on this side, so subtract 5x, and here's where we're at. So drop down to negative 15y. Again, I'm going to box it so I don't forget that I have to get that y by itself. That's the whole point of us doing this. Here's where people get messed up. So 5x negative and 15 are not like terms. We cannot combine these two together because this one has an x and this one doesn't. So since we can't combine it, we don't. We just kind of write it out. So this is going to be negative 5x plus 15. We cannot combine them, therefore we don't. Okay? All we got to do now is just divide both sides by the number that's in front of the y, which is negative 15. So we're going to divide this side by negative 15 so I can cancel. And then we're going to divide this side by negative 15. And then, boom, we have the y by itself. So we get y on this side by itself equals this craziness. So how do we simplify that? What I like to do, I like to split it into two different fractions first so I don't get confused. So I'm going to just rewrite it as negative 5x over negative 15, because remember, the whole thing is over 15. The negative 5 is over negative 15, and then the 15 is over negative 15. So we get this, and then plus 15 over negative 15. All right, so we're basically done. We just have to simplify this thing. So the final answer would be y. 15 and 5, what can go into both of these? Well, first of all, the negatives cancel, so negative divided by negative is a positive. If I divide the top one by 5, and if I divide the bottom one by 5, I get a 1 on top, and I get a 3 on the bottom. So divide this by 5, I get 1. Divide this by 5, I get 3. The negatives canceled out, so basically it's 1 over 3x. I do it again for this guy. 15 divided by 15, well, that's just 1. So, and then we have a positive and a negative next to each other, meaning that the negative wins, so it's negative 1. Done. So our final answer was going to be y equals 1 over 3x minus 1, which we can actually graph. Remember, that's the point of this. We couldn't graph this, but now since the y is by itself, we can graph it, which is good. All right, example number 2. So same idea. Let's get the y by itself. So line down the equal sign. This is the other color. We want to move the 3. We want to move the negative 6x. The one that's furthest away is the negative 6x. So we want to get rid of that first. So we do plus 6x on both sides. So we can cancel it. So this goes away. We're going to drop down to 3y. Again, I'm going to box it so I don't forget that I have to get that guy by itself. Okay. On this side, again, we cannot combine the 6x with the 9 because this has an x and this doesn't. So don't feel like you have to. Since we can't combine it, we just don't. So we're going to be left with 6x minus 9. Finally, all we have to do is divide this side by 3. Divide this side by 3. So we get y, which I box, equals this, all this stuff on top divided by 3. So again, I'm going to split it up into two fractions. 6x divided by 3 minus 9 divided by 3. Two different fractions, which will make our life easy for simplification. All we got to do now is simplify. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. So y equals 2x minus 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. So our final answer is y equals 2x minus 3, which is a slope-intercept form because the y is by itself. All right, last one. Let's do this one a little bit quicker since we kind of got the hang of it already. So line down the equal sign. I want to get rid of the 6 and the negative 5x. This one's furthest, so I'm going to start with that guy. So plus 5x on both sides so it can cancel. Remember, I want to cross these off so the signs have to be opposite. This goes away. Drop down to 6y, so 6y. On the other side, I cannot combine anything, so I'm just rewriting it. So I get 5x. That was a positive 30, so plus 30. Then I got to divide this by 6, so divide this side by 6. Divide this whole thing by 6. So drop down the y. We got our final expression for y. Y equals, I cannot divide 5 divided by 6. So whatever, I can't divide it. So I just leave it as a fraction. So it'll be 5 over 6x. And then 30 divided by 6, I could actually divide that. So 6 times 5 is 30. So I can put a positive 5 here. So our final answer is y equals 5 over 6x plus 5, which I can graph. So cool, we could actually graph these three now if we wanted to. All right, guys, hopefully this helped. See you guys in the next one.